Today we're going to look at several situations from two different perspectives. The perspective of Mr. C and the perspective of Mr. I. Mr. C and Mr. I are relatively the same. They have the same skill set, the same educational background, even the same social network. But there's one key difference that distinguishes Mr. C from Mr. I, and that is confidence. Mr. C communicates with confidence. He has the tools necessary to do that, while Mr. I lacks that confidence and does not have the tools. Big difference. Not enough for a Donnybrook, but anyway. This speech will take a look at these situations, and we're going to evaluate how Mr. C and Mr. I respond to various situations. So let's start with our first situation. We're at work, so why don't we start with a work situation. Mr. C and Mr. I both happen to be team leads. One day their boss comes up to them and says, "Our competition is way ahead of us. We need to be innovative. We need to do more with less." None of us have heard that before, right? Luckily for us, Mr. C and Mr. I have been thinking about this for a while, and they have a couple good ideas. Let's see how they react to their boss. Mr. I. "Boss, thank you very much. I have been thinking about this for several months now, and I have several ideas. If we take my first idea and we act on it, we will meet success if we learn from our failures." Mr. C. "Boss, I've been thinking about this for several months now. I have several ideas. If we take my first idea and we act on it and we learn from our mistakes, we will succeed." Same message, different delivery. Which one was more effective? Let's look at another situation. Having to do with a cable. These two guys are sick of the junk on TV, so they decide that they're going to stop wasting their money on a cable bill that they don't really need anymore. So they decide to call up the cable company. A nice lady on the phone answers, or man, and says, "Hello, this is your local cable company. How can I help you today?" Mr. I. "Hi, I've decided I'm going to cancel my cable bill. However, I'd still like to keep my internet service. Is that something you can help me out with today?" Okay. Mr. C. "Hello, I have decided that I am going to cancel my cable bill. However, I would still like to keep my internet service. Is that something you can help me out with today?" Definite differences in delivery. Again, same message. Let's look at one more situation. Mr. C and Mr. I both volunteer at their local church. They're in charge of a group of 15 fourth grade boys. And they have to run a class with fourth grade boys in the class. As the parents drop the boys off, at some point the class has to start. And you can imagine with 15 fourth grade boys, it's a little rambunctious and a little crazy. So they have to get the attention of these kids. Let's see how they go about doing it. Mr. I. "Everyone, we have a very fun night planned ahead of us. Please come to the table and sit down so that we can start the class on time." Okay? Mr. C. "Everyone, listen up. We have a very fun night ahead of us. Please come to the table, sit down, so that we can start the class on time." Differences for sure. So what is it that Mr. C knows that Mr. I doesn't know? Mr. C follows the ITA principle. What is the ITA principle? ITA stands for inflection, tone, and articulation. Happens to come from our speaker's manual book. If you're a Toastmaster, you can look at it. Look at inflection. How did Mr. C react to those kids? He emphasized key words that he wanted those kids to listen to. Very fun. You're a kid. Very fun? What? Sit down, start on time. While Mr. I didn't emphasize any words. By emphasizing key words, you can make a huge difference in even the meaning of a sentence. Tone. Remember when Mr. I was talking to his boss, very monotone, using only 1 to 2 notes, very boring. Mr. C used a lot, many notes. A very good speaker can use up to 25 different musical notes when he's speaking. Tone. And then finally, articulation. When Mr. I was talking to the cable company, he mumbled and he sped through what he was saying to the cable company. Most likely, the cable company had to come back and ask, excuse me, what did you say again? He had to repeat himself. Well, Mr. C articulated, enunciated each word, properly formed each word, and he took his time. Think about your own speech style and your own communication style. How can you communicate with confidence? Think back to the ITA principles. If you follow these ITA principles and you be more like Mr. C, I can guarantee that you will communicate with confidence.